Welcome to the Vet Med Wellness and Leadership Podcast, where we discuss central challenges vet med leaders face, such as burnout, stress, and difficult interactions with clients and staff, just to name a few. In each episode, you will hear about actionable solutions that you can apply to your practice and invitations to connect with fellow leaders who are passionate about improving the wellness of the vet med profession. By subscribing, liking, commenting, or sharing this podcast, you are helping more veterinary professionals find the resources shared in these episodes. Thank you in advance for listening and supporting this show. I hope you enjoy it. All right. Hey, everybody. Crystal Stokes here, and joining me today is Ryan Leech, who handles strategic partnerships with Digitails. And today we are going to discuss how AI can help reduce burnout in veterinary medicine. So Ryan, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I've been a big fan of your show for a long time, so I've listened to a ton of episodes, so it's fun to be on the other side of it.
I should get you a t-shirt when I finally make one.
Oh, yeah. I'm a big fan of branded swag, so you let me know. I can get you my guy.
Awesome. That sounds great. Well, let's start with an icebreaker. For those who are only listening and not watching the video, Ryan has a really cool background with zebras all over the place. And I wanted to ask you, what's up with zebras?
So right as COVID hit, we moved into a new house, and I built a office off the side of my house because just like you, I do a podcast as well and needed a quiet place to be able to record and also have a bit of a commute. And it was an all white cube for a very long time. And when I'd get on calls, people thought I was in an insane asylum, which sometimes I feel like I'm in. But then I found these zebras. They're zebras in love. It's zebra in love wallpaper. So some of them are prancing together. Some of them are hugging each other. Some of them are kissing. So yeah, those are my zebras in love. They keep me company throughout the day. So they're just a nice little addition.
I love it. Yeah, that is great wallpaper. And who doesn't like a zebra? And definitely a zebra in love is just over the top.
It's perfect. Yeah.
So let's start off today with telling everybody what in the heck is Digitails?
Yeah, great question. So Digitails is an all-in-one cloud PIMS, and a PIMS is practice management software. So in the veterinary field, as everyone knows, but if there's anyone that's not really deep in practice, in the vet space, we take electronic medical records and we blend them with your CRM, and we put them together into one tool that does everything for you. And Digitails goes one step further by also having our pet parent app, as well as the thing that I think we're here to talk about a lot today is our new AI component, which is Tails. And Tails is our fully integrated AI tool that does everything from client intake to making sure that you can have really fun emails, asking for outstanding balances, checking contraindications, and doing everything across the board, as well as voice dictation. So it's really a way to be able to jump into a cloud-based system that does everything that you're going to need.
Great. So when you say tails, is that spelled like the tail of a fox?
Yes. So Digitails is like digital, but tail, because, hey, whenever you can put an animal word in there and you don't have to use the word paw, it's a nice time there. And Tails is actually, we have a fun, cute little, as we'll talk about, right? Everyone wants to humanize AI. So, or, add characters to AI. So Tails is a little fox that we have who's sharply dressed, who is your AI assistant within the practice.
Awesome. So all this is very warm and fuzzy, but I'm going to go ahead and play the skeptic. Let's just start off there. So for the skeptical side of me would say, first of all, AI is scary. Like I'm worried about the downsides of AI or losing control over it. So can you first speak to that?
Yeah, it's not a completely unreasonable fear, right? Like our whole lives, we grew up watching Terminator and seeing that the robots were going to come after us. And now we're like opening the front door and letting them in. So what people need to understand, though, is that the AI tools that we're actually utilizing in Chat GPT or inside your clinic with Tails, or, I always like to think of your Spotify DJ if you use that. Really what that is it's taking prompts that humans have created and written for it, and then it's actually acquiring and utilizing as much data and information as it can from everywhere to be able to give you advice or information or knowledge. Mm-hmm. What it doesn't do is pick up the scalpel and start doing surgery for you.
Right. Can't replace the human aspect of it.
And it's something as well, my wife and I have been redoing our backyard, right? We had multiple quotes. We had people come out. Everyone had different opinions. Yeah. And we went with the person that we felt really knew what they were doing. Yeah. And it's the same way as when you're sending a client to a specialist, right? You refer them to a specialist that you trust what their opinion is, and it might be completely different than someone else's. But as a medical practitioner or even somebody writing an email utilizing Chat GPT, you should proofread it. You should make sure that it's not saying something crazy, but what it can do is write a 200-word response for you in 5 seconds and take off that mental load that you would normally take to say, oh gosh, how am I going to respond back to Crystal and tell her like, oh, I need to change our schedule and da-da-da. But it's like, AI, this is what I need to do, make it sound really nice. And yeah, I read it and it sounds good. So it's a tool. It's not a replacement.
Perfectly said and understood. I think that's really helpful. I mean, I think about how just for me emailing, I have a lot of templates I've created in advance. Mm-hmm. The podcast template, it's the same thing. I just pull up the template, I fill in your information, I delete certain things that aren't relevant, and then I send it. So that's a big time saver. Another point of skepticism would be, I'm going to ball these two together. Let's say I already have a PIM system, and switching to a new system is a pain in the butt. My staff would be livid with me to do this to them. Learning a new software is so disruptive. And on top of that, of all these different AI providers out there, why should I even pay attention to you all compared to the next guy?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I have had the opportunity since I've been in the veterinary field to work at Digitails, which I think is the premier PIMS in the market. That's why I work with the team here. But I also worked with another PIMS before that did a spectacular job and tons of credit to what they had built. But then I was also on the side of looking for a unified PIMS for a corporate group, as well as consulting with people and doing that. And you are taking, in a lot of situations, the heart, and you're doing a heart transplant in some situations, right? But if we were going to go super medical, right? A heart transplant, sometimes they don't do it just for fun. They do it because it's necessary. And when you're looking at where you are with whether it's a legacy server-based PIMS that's, doesn't allow you to integrate with AI tools or doesn't allow your team to be able to go home and update the final notes from bed or do a telemedicine appointment and update the notes, or it locks you out, or you're paying tens of thousands of dollars for service, it's a necessary thing that's coming forward. We're now at the point where cloud software is should be the benchmark and the requirement. And if you still have a wall of VHSs at your home, okay, maybe, yeah, you can keep your server, but the rest of us are streaming from a cloud on Netflix. And you're doing it for that. You're doing your banking. The majority of banking is done via an app now. So people don't go to banks. They don't even log into their app. They don't even log into their computer. They do it via their app. And so this is really taking the opportunity for people to be able to utilize that. Now, on the AI side of things, Tails is really cool. It's the only fully native integrated AI tool within a PIMS. So we were just in Orlando, and actually when this comes out, we'll have also just been in Vegas. And I can assure you that half of the floor in the conference hall and the exhibit hall is going to have the words or the letters A and I somewhere on their sheet. And a lot of the companies are going to be new companies that you've never heard from before or ever seen, and they're telling you that they have an AI tool. Well, as we talked about at the beginning, it's only as useful as the data that it can read. You're only teaching it off of what it can access. And by having one that's fully integrated into your PIM software, Tails can read your previous records that patient had. It can read, it can tell you that maybe something that's happening with one other pet within the household might be related to what this pet is. Now, you're never going to get that kind of data understanding by just utilizing some external tool. So it's a fully integrated piece. And, we really thought about it as the full life cycle, from when that first visit comes in or when someone calls into the front desk and does the intake form, all the way to sending them reminders and emails and making it so that it's a piece within the system. It's not a bolt-on.
Okay, so you've calmed down my skeptical side. Now I'm curious. You mentioned like this, kind of life cycle that the client coming in. So what if we kind of walk through
how this system actually works, describing Digitail, if I were to bring it into my practice from the first moment of a client interaction all the way through to discharge, follow-up care. Well, just paint the picture for me so I can imagine how it works.
Yeah. So you have a client that with Digitail, we have our own online booking tool fully integrated and included in the software. The client makes that booking appointment. Or if they have the pet parent app already downloaded, they go in to the system and they can actually do your intake forms instead of them going and filling out boxes, they actually are talking to the AI tool, to Tails. And Tails will say, what are you coming in for today? Oh, well, this is this. Okay. And it's actually a responsive communication that fills out your intake form and will actually get you a significantly higher amount of information than just, what checkbox do you think you fit into? Mm-hmm. And so when you do that, so you have from intake, you then have the opportunity for your staff to not have to hand a clipboard across the desk or, ask someone to hand them an iPad to fill out information. They're having clients walk in the front door. You've got all the paperwork done. And then when the patient is in the exam room, your doctor can come in and they've got our transcription, our voice dictation fully up and running with the quick soap tool. And they can do a passive recording of the entire examination. And it just talks. You just talk like we're talking right now. But what the AI component does is it filters out the part where you tell me about your T-ball game or your kid's T-ball game. And you filter out the part where we talk about the weather for 5 minutes to make you feel comfortable. But then as I start saying things that are medically relevant, the tool will filter out the incomplete or unnecessary components and actually fill out an entire SOAP note for you. Again, you should read it, but as it does it more and more, it becomes more and more familiar with your style of practicing medicine. It fills out the SOAP note for you. Then the client finishes everything. They go to check out. And you want to send them an email, but hey, they did a pickup or a drop-off appointment and they're coming to pick it up, but you notice before they come to pick up that they have an outstanding balance. Well, that's uncomfortable. All of the data shows that veterinarians don't like to ask for money. No one in the clinic usually likes to ask for money. So we go to Tails and we say, hey, Tails, ask patient XYZ or owner XYZ to pay their outstanding balance, but make it lighthearted and mention something about recent holidays. And it'll sit down, type it all out for you. It'll have the outstanding balance that's associated with what's in the record because it's tying back to the system, right? You can send that out. You can copy and send it directly through a text, or you can send it through the pet parent app. The client can then also get a payment link directly from there that the tool knows to embed because it's actually reading from the payment processing system. And then when you want to do reminders, when you want to do anything beyond that too, it can do all of that. That's not even coming to hit on all of the things of when you're walking into the appointment. I skipped this part, right? You're walking into the appointment, and if you haven't had a chance to read the full chart, you can say, tell me any medications that the patient's on and any chronic illnesses or things that I should look out that are breed specific. And it'll say, well, because they're a golden retriever, you're going to want to check hip dysplasia. They're on Librella, so they might still be sprightly, but we should also check on the fact that there could still be joint issues despite them not showing it. And you're going to go, perfect. Hey, so good to see Walter. How's everything going with the new treatment he's doing? And you have that assistant, you have that person or that tool walking around and telling you what's going on. So yeah, it's designed to be a completely holistic approach.
That last part you mentioned, is that something like an earpiece that's talking to you, or is it you dictate, you say it, and then it shows you on like an iPad?
Yeah, it'll show you on the iPad. Wow. Yeah, and you can, you can do voice dictation as well. So you can, we have a lot of doctors that utilize it. They have their cell phone logged in because it's a cloud-based system. You can just log in on any device that accesses the internet. So you can just have Tails running, doing passive listening throughout the day, and then you click a button and voice dictate and say, Tails, tell me about my next patient that I'm going to see. And you're in and it'll pop it out and you can even tell it, summarize it in less than 15 words. Okay, great, no problem. And so you can really tweak exactly how you want to do it. That's kind of the thing I think that a lot of people are learning, and the newest skill set that's important when starting to utilize AI tools is prompt engineering. And so that happens a lot on our back end when our team built the tool, is actually taking the tool and Tails to understand, okay, read this information, classify this as more important, don't classify this, but also as a user to be able to say, I want to know what's going on with this patient. Tell me in 3 sentences or less, and put it in a bullet format.
Yeah, that's great. I see how training the staff on how to best utilize it, like giving clear directions to Tails, can get you even better information, help shortcut things.
Yeah.
So we mentioned this at the very beginning, that the topic of the day is how AI can really help reduce burnout in veterinary medicine. So let's go down that path. And I know you mentioned a study that you were going to share with us today too. Yeah. So for those listening, I think their ears are burning about, we know on a daily basis, I am hearing from the clients that I work with, the exhaustion of client communication being such a struggle, on so much paperwork and just admin time. It is such a drag. Like, people don't go to vet school because they want to sit behind a computer and type notes all day. They don't go to vet school because they want to discuss money and have difficult client conversations. They go there to practice medicine and to be with animals. So I'd love to hear more about how you all feel Digitail and AI in general is helping to really relieve that burnout load.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to do a talk with Dr. Parminder Basran, who's the head of AI for radiology at Cornell University. And Parminder where we are today as a world of understanding AI. That's where he was 15 years ago. And we're just catching up maybe to some of the stuff that he's doing. But the boiled down component that he really said that I think a lot of people look at is AI should offload the mundane tasks from your brain. Anything that's repetitive, mundane, that doesn't require your heavy cognitive skill or critical thinking skills, you can offload to an AI. And so when we did we just administered a survey. We did it in collaboration with AHA. And it's, I'll make sure that the link to the white paper is available for everyone. And it's artificial intelligence in veterinary medicine. And what we found was that nearly 40% of the respondents, I think we had about 4,000 respondents, so it was a very large survey. Nearly 40% of those respondents have actually utilized an AI tool inside their clinic already. And that the likelihood and the value that people find of utilizing an AI tool skyrockets when they've actually tried it. So it's one of those things that if you are skeptical or you're on the fence about it, just try it, right? It's you can go on Chat GPT, it's free. Like, just try it. Ask it to write a grocery list for a healthy salad and just see how easy it is. And then you can just start saying, okay, what was something that I did today that caused me distress purely because of the mundane portion of it or the just unpleasantry of it, and ask AI tools to do it. So for client communication, that's obviously a big topic. And, like we talked about, outstanding invoices. No one wants to be the one that has to sit there and go, how do I tell Mrs. Jones that Fluffy still owes $500 before I want them to come back in? And you're going to sit there and you're going to type it and you're going to delete it and you're going to type it and you're going to delete it and you're going to type it. No. Just ask Tails to do it, and Tails will write an email, and then you say, the cool thing is you can say, make it funnier. Okay, it'll make it funnier. Add a couple emojis, highlight any relevant pieces, and ensure you include a payment link. And so that just offloads that cognitive load and allows you to say, hey, this was super easy. I sent out 40 emails to outstanding balances. That task is wiped off my plate. For the practitioners, when you're thinking about, okay, I have my chicken scratch notes or whatever because I haven't, gotten away from paper. Now I have to go back and read this, but it's the end of the day and I need to type my notes and everything. No, just still take your notes if you want to be able to refer back to them, but do passive listening and allow the tool to listen to everything and write out your soap notes for you. And as you build the confidence that it's doing it correctly, you can sit there and go, okay, yep, those numbers all look in line with what I was thinking. Perfect. Yep, sign this hope note. It's just taking one more piece off your plate. Now, we've seen heavily in the burnout side of things, there's massive amounts of data that monotony of task and the lack of working at top of license for all levels within the clinic is one of the triggers to burnout. Like you said, people did not go to school for all the time that you go to be a licensed veterinary technician or a DVM. They didn't do all of that because they love sitting in front of a computer. So if we can allow people to have more time to do more complex thinking and higher level thinking within the clinic, or if you're not having to worry about sitting at the front desk and explaining discharge instructions because you had Tails write them for you, and you had Tails translate them to a foreign language for you, or do anything of that, or put in pictures or whatever you wanted, then you actually have the time to be in the back there and take an extra 5, 10, 15 minutes to think about, okay, what could be causing this ailment in this ailment? I haven't been able to figure it out. And there was a great story we had from one of the early users. And she told us that prior to getting Tails, she had been looking for, what was it? It was a recommendation of a diet component. And she was trying to understand if this diet that she wanted to recommend had any clinical data that was counteracted against, I believe it was a vaccine that she was wanting to give. She was like, I feel like I've seen something about this. And she said she spent about 4 hours researching and Googling it and going through articles and everything. And then when we did the demo, we said, well, what was it? And she said, this was it. And we said, all right, here we go. Boop. And it went, here you go. This paper in 2018 suggested a higher likelihood of fatalities by this and this and this. An alternative medication is this, or this, and this dosages. And she was like, that's right. That's what I found after 4 hours. We're like, well, it found it in about 8 seconds for you. And so it was really cool. So she felt great because she was like, yeah, this is right. But people are able to then, when you see the tool working, you can actually see that it's helping.
Wow. That's tremendous. I'm really excited to get to see the AI study with partnered with AHA. Do you have any statistics you want to throw out there? I don't know if you're a numbers person, but some people listening, I think, love the numbers.
Let me see here. I've got some of our white paper pulled up. So some of the top numbers we found: 84% of veterinary professionals are familiar with AI and feel confident in its applications. Like we said, about 40% have used AI tools within the practice, which was a number higher than what we had expected. And then 70% of those that have used it use it on a daily or weekly basis.
Wow. Are there any stats in there around burnout at all?
You know, what we found, let me see.
Or even on saving time, I'm thinking of things that relate to burnout, like amount of time saved on not doing mundane tasks.
Yeah. So here's a few that will probably be interesting for you. 73% of our respondents believe that embracing AI will allow for more efficient resource allocation.
Yeah.
57% believe that adopting AI could help increase revenue by seeing more patients. Mm-hmm. And 52% believe that AI may give their hospital a competitive advantage. Mm-hmm. So those are all big pieces that were interesting there. The number one thing that we found people were using AI tools for were imaging and radiology, and that was also tied with administrative tasks. So think about that. The tied for number one spot was something that blows my mind on a technological front. And if it was 40 years ago and you said, yeah, we use this computer to read pictures of inside of animals, everyone would have been like, yeah, you're crazy on all fronts. And then you're like, plus we use it to write letters to people. Okay, those are pretty disparate, but that kind of shows the breadth of what it can be used for. And I think that every person that looks to use it will find what the offloading of tasks is, or the upskilling of what you can do. It's a secondary opinion. It's that other voice that can make you perhaps reassured or add a data point behind what you're looking for on a medical side of things. So I do think that we'll find on the burnout prevention, we'll find that practitioners are improving or increasing their, not confidence, but perhaps data sets to be able to make confident decisions. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to say, what procedure should I do? But you might say, is there an alternative procedure that I'm not thinking about for this? And it might say, hey, have you looked at this, this, and this? And you might say, hey, I'd be more interested. Let me hear about option B. Can you pull up an article for me, or a medical journal, or a link to something that can tell me about that? You'll read about a secondary type of a procedure. You go, I really feel more confident in my skill set on procedure 1, but I'm glad that I've explored a secondary option. Mm-hmm. And that's veterinarians. All the data from burnout surveys across the world show that veterinarians love to continue to learn. They don't love going to continuous education, but they love to continually learn. So if we can give them opportunities to learn every single day, I think it's a cool way to add some flavor to what their days are doing.
Absolutely agree. For this type of system, is it more appropriate for GP practices, or is it just as useful in specialty?
I think it's useful across the board. GP, you're still extremely sharp on what you're doing, right? You're not, but there might be some cases that come in that you might have referred out because you just wanted that second feedback on something. And this might be sort of that tool to allow you to do it. It's also, you're going to have more follow-up emails in a GP clinic. You're going to have probably more of the administrative tasks that it can offload. Whereas in a specialty or even in an ER, or I think of an urgent care in a lot of those situations, you're going to have more disparate cases that you're going to be looking for contraindications or differences in historic data of, you have a patient that came in that you have no history on. And pet parent said, well, they're taking something. It's like a little green colored pill. It's in a taller bottle, and it's for something. And you go, okay, well, let's see what AI tells us, and type it in there, and it might give you some options. You might say, okay, is that Dasequin? Is it like, you'll name a few, and they'll go, oh, that's the one. You go, perfect. All right, great. I was able to do that. And so there's ways that you can just increase the capacity. So I do think urgent care, ER, especially, are all going to see a lot of really cool utilization from it as well. And then we're not even hitting on the AI component into inventory management or load management or scheduling or any of those things, because those are a whole nother subset that you can look at and utilize historic data as well as future-looking data on trends to know what medications you should have on the shelves versus which ones you should send to an online pharmacy.
So your all system can do that too?
So we're digging into that more too, yeah. So the inventory management piece, there's some partners that we're working with on that, and that's something that's coming down the line for us soon too.
Like the hospital administrators listening, their ears just perked up like, what? That was awesome. So I think that having those up and coming, like what's on the radar for the future, is also good for people to know. Can you, as we're kind of coming down the home stretch, can you also speak to what is that onboarding process like? I think that's so disruptive to a hospital, and I think that creates a lot of resistance to even trying something new. So for those people who want to maybe just test it out first and see if we think this would be appropriate for our hospital, they want to feel that visceral relief. Like, I want to be able to get on your testing site and play with this and say, oh my gosh, I can feel my burnout going down by 2% just by playing with this tool. And then if I wanted to bring it into my practice, what would that look like? So tell me that in a nutshell.
Yeah, so it's a couple different ways, right? So one of the things with Tails being a fully integrated piece within Digitail, it is only available if you're a Digitail PIMS user. So that's something that's really important, I think. And so, but that doesn't mean that everyone in the world shouldn't test it out and try it on one of our testing sites. But for our current clients, it's as easy as us pushing a button and turning it on for them. And that's what we're doing. They just say, hey, I'd like to try it out. We offer a 1-month free trial for them to check it out and see what it does for them within the clinic. And they can, most of them start using it 30 seconds later. There's not really a training program for it. Tails kind of walks you through, hey, prompt me this, ask me this, try this with me. And it learns how you're using it. Now, for people that aren't using Digitail right now, what you can do, you can reach out to our team. We're more than happy to get anyone set up on sort of a sandbox play account. And we've had a lot of people that want to experience an AI tool, and they'll turn it on one screen, and they'll still be running their old server-based system on the other one. And they'll still do that passive listening. And then they'll see, oh my gosh, even without all of my client data in here, it understands what I'm trying to get to. Or instead of sitting here and writing an email, let me just ask Tails to do it for me. So there's really cool ways that people can go in there. It's the training for utilizing an AI tool is seconds, really. Getting up and running with the new PIMS is a much bigger feat in a lot of situations. But the neat thing is that as Tails integrates into more and more components of the PIMS, you're actually spending less time dragging and clicking and sliding, because you're just asking the tool to do it for you. Hey, update weights for me on this patient, and then push these vitals into all of the correct categories. So you're not looking to put it in the right category. You're just telling the tool to do it for you. And then it's putting it there so that down the line, it has the right space to query all the information for you.
And how does it take to take all the information in my old PIMS and move it over to the new?
So the neat thing about Digitail, we do all of that in-house. So we have our own fully in-house data migration team. We've mapped out all the data from the majority of PIMS players in the space. We do look to do about 4 to 6 weeks of onboarding training. We can push your data in there instantly. It takes, a day or two at the most, just depending on our team's availability. But what we really like to do is actually train people on how to use the PIMS, get them up to speed on, what's going on in your current workflow. A big thing that everyone has is bad inventory management, right? And so instead of pushing bad data into a new system, there's a process where we work with the practices to clean up the data. If we can work with them to come up with unified codes or using AHA, the chart of accounts, if we can help them sort of introduce some of the more modern, newer things into historic data, we do that. And so that's where we take that initial part. There can be pain to it. Anyone that tells you it's painless to switch PIMS is wrong. But if someone that works for a PIMS company is telling you that it's painful, but that it's worth it, I would think that's a pretty transparent piece there. And the tool, the AI component, really does allow you to jump into it with a little more confidence.
Wonderful. Okay. Now, we've talked about so much today. I'm thinking of those listening who only want to take away 2 things, walk away, that's all they have, under the umbrella of burnout, AI. What would you want people to remember from this talk today?
I think the number one thing that people should do or remember is just try an AI tool. It doesn't have to be for revolutionizing your entire world. But the next time that your mother-in-law sends you an ugly sweater and you want to write her a nice text to respond back, have AI write it so that you don't even have to think about it, right? Like, just offload that task. Sorry to my mother-in-law if she's listening. I love everything you give me. But that's a big one. And then I think the other really important thing is that AI are tools, and they're getting better every single day, but they're not infallible. And there's something that still require a human input, and that we still, as a community and as an industry, need to be the stewards of the information going in as well as coming out.
Well done. I've really enjoyed this podcast.
I enjoyed too.
I'm a budding fan of AI, like Chat GPT and even Siri, like the little things where I go, wow, that's, and I can tell I don't have a proficiency in like the prompts I give it to really get the most out of it. So that's intriguing as well. So I'm appreciative of what you all are doing with Digitail. I hope that people listening today, if they're in need of a PIMS or just considering ways to reduce the load on their staff to free them up to just do more of the work that they actually love, go ahead and give it a demo. And for those that are curious, how can they find you?
Yeah, so you can always find us on digitail.com. We also have our white paper, which I'll make sure that you have the link to, because I think even if you are curious about AI at all, it's really cool to be able to see what the overall industry is thinking about it. And you can find us on every single social media. And every single conference, anywhere you need to find us, just look for Digitail and you'll find our team.
I will see you at Western.
I will be there.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being on. It's been really fun. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you feel stoked after listening to this episode. And as always, I would love to hear your comments and feedback. Is there a topic that you want to know more about? Please let me know. And thank you again for subscribing and sharing your favorite episodes with others. It really means a lot.